Well, I think the open door immigration has a lot to play with it, because we are trying to get in as many immigrants as, citizens as much. I think they say that they want to be about 6 million, if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think that this put a constraint to the cost of living, housing, medical, transport, school enrollment, and etc., etc. And I believe that we should look carefully to see whether do we need to have that amount of population in Singapore, because it's land constrained and we don't have hinterland. They take away our jobs, you know, in areas of job creation. I think there should be a level playing field where, you know, these PMETs, you know, can come with the with the S pass, they can come in and they no need to pay CPF levy.
So what will your party propose to do instead?
Well, my party proposed that the government should set some sort of policy or some law to ensure that our workers get a job from the foreigners.
So if your party were the government, what would your party do?
Well, we make that you meet the employers who are paying these workers from foreign countries to top up the salary of our local Singaporeans, because they save a lot on the, you know, CPF, the levy and all this. So I think to be fair, to be a level playing thing, they should give it back to our Singaporeans, you know. And I believe that they have not done, the government have not done this employment statistics since some time, and there was 55% of Singaporeans having employed, and 45% given to foreigners.
We can certainly stop foreign workers from coming to Singapore, but we cannot stop companies from leaving. So I think a very important point is to ask ourselves, in terms of the way that we manage the economy, how can we allow companies and businesses to selectively employ foreign workers for the benefit of growing the Singapore economy, for the benefit of our incomes rising? One small point that I want to just point out. In manufacturing operations in Singapore, typically 80% of the operators are non-Singaporeans. In other words, many of the low-end jobs are done by the foreigners. But guess what? 80% of the managerial jobs in finance, in administration, the technicians, the engineers, those 80% are Singaporeans. If you tell these companies that they can't continue their operations here because we're going to stop the inflow of foreign workers completely, then these 80% Singaporeans will equally lose their jobs.
We should target the industry that we to import these foreign workers. Targeted industry. Manufacturing is one of it, I will agree, but then again, 80% is too much. I think most of our Singaporeans also have that urge to work other than service industry and so on and so forth. So I think we should target those industries like construction. Most of us which do not want, probably we can just get them in. But then again, now we are getting professionals, expats in the managerial, those professionals in banking. I think those, our own GICs having foreigners to be CEOs or chairmen, correct me if I'm wrong. So are we not good enough as Singaporeans to be in these sectors?
The Workers' Party is not an anti-immigrant party. We welcome foreigners to come in when they are able to contribute to the skills and the skills pool in Singapore. However, we believe that the rate of immigration should not exceed our country's capacity and infrastructure to absorb them, and it should not exceed our ability of our people to be able to integrate, for them to integrate with our people. And so they should be admitted primarily into positions which Singaporeans are unable to fill. And to do that, we need to reduce the reliance on foreign workers by increasing our productivity, so that and more automation, so that we don't have to have all these labor inputs, but we can have productivity increases to be able to increase our output. And I believe that when productivity increases and people's salaries rise, it would be easier to fill a lot of these positions with Singaporeans rather than having to fill it with low-wage foreigners.
You are exactly right in pointing out the measures that are already in place in terms of focusing on productivity and also in introducing better controls on the quality of the foreign manpower that we're bringing in. But one important point is that our unemployment rate today is 2.1%. And if you think about the challenges that the companies face in growing and expanding, I think that's also something that we have to bear in mind.
The SDP's point of view, the key issue for Singaporean workers is the fact that Singaporean workers are being displaced because of cheaper foreign workers. You know, you can pay a foreign worker much less than you would pay a Singaporean worker. The SDP advocates a Singaporeans first policy, which is in many countries where, you know, you have to demonstrate why a foreign worker has to be brought into your firm before you're able to employ that worker.
Let's not harm the economy and reduce the number of jobs available for Singaporeans. That's critical. Let's make sure that we provide good jobs for all Singaporeans. And that means whichever industry you look at, manufacturing, logistics, F&B, finance, when you talk to any business, they'll need Singaporeans, quality Singaporeans, and they need quality foreigners. They go together. It's not a zero-sum game. With the foreigners, we create more jobs for Singaporeans. And that's been the story of the last 10 years. In the last 5 years, we had many more foreigners coming in, but we brought unemployment down to 2%. That's virtually full employment for Singaporeans. And we raised wages, including wages for those at the very bottom, at the same time that we brought in foreigners. So let's keep economic growth healthy and sustainable so that we can keep creating good jobs for Singaporeans, rather than try to squeeze companies the wrong way.
On Singaporeans first, that's exactly what the quota system does today. For any employer, before he can be considered for eligibility to hire a foreigner, he has to show that he already has Singaporeans on his payroll. And I think that dependency ratio varies from sector to sector. For those sectors where fewer Singaporeans are keen to work, then the dependency ratio can be higher. But otherwise, actually, it favors Singaporeans.
No, I just wanted to say I'm glad that Mr. Giam emphasized productivity. That's very important, and I'm glad that the Workers' Party is taking that stand, that raising productivity and skills is the way to go. That's how we're going to raise incomes across the board. Let's focus on that task. It's hard work. It's not a speech, it's not even a policy. It's hard work on the ground, working with companies, unions and workers to improve the quality of every job. Let's focus on it.
Productivity in the PAP, productivity measures have failed these 27 years, so we need to look at a different way.
Okay, we have time for you to talk.